Good morning.
Good morning, Joellen.
How are you?
I'm just fine, thanks.
Good. Do you mind stating your name, please?
My name is Diana Reilly.
And how about your maiden name?
My maiden name was Leedy, L-E-E-D-Y.
And were you born in Lebanon County?
Born and raised, lived here most of my life, except for some time away at college and when I worked for Bell Telephone. Then I moved back here.
And where did you go to college?
Went to Penn State and got my degree, and again got a second degree a number of years later after my kids were grown at Lebanon Valley College. So I have a degree from each of those schools.
And what are your degrees in?
Penn State, I have a liberal arts degree in history, and at Lebanon Valley, I have a BS in accounting.
Wow, that's quite a background. And so tell me about your family. Husband, children?
My husband Jim and I were married almost 35 years when he passed away in 2000. We have 3 sons, Kevin, Scott, and Nathan, and I have 7 wonderful grandchildren. I finally got some girls. We have 5 girls and 2 boys, and grandchildren run from 17 years old to down to almost 2, and they're a delight to me. They fill my heart with a lot of joy.
Great. And your husband was a well-respected attorney in town?
Yes, he was. Very active in the Democratic Party and in politics and government and all those kinds of things. Really enjoyed what he did in life.
He was always a bundle of joy.
Lots of fun times, right.
And how about your parents? Tell me about them.
My parents were Bill and Helen Leedy, and Bill was a gas station owner for as long as I can remember. He owned several stations around town. I think when I was growing up, everybody knew me as Bill Leedy's daughter. That was before I became Jim Reilly's wife. But my mom, Helen, was a homemaker and worked part-time as a waitress and so forth. She was great. She unfortunately just passed away last year, and
My condolences.
until she was 95, and she was a treasure too. So wonderful parents, both of whom were raised here, and I've had a lot of large extended family on both sides of that.
Wow. Well, tell me what you did with your degrees. I know that even though you were known as somebody's daughter and somebody's wife, you are a woman of influence in this community. So tell us all about what you've done.
Well, when I moved back here, right out of college, I went to work for Bell Telephone Company. And then when I got married, I moved back here and I worked for Bell Telephone for a short time. And then decided to have a family, and so I was a stay-at-home mom, but I've been active in the League of Women Voters and always active in church. I belong to St. Mary's Church and the Diocese of Harrisburg, so I was involved with a number of things there, finance councils and so on. And then back in the 90s, a friend talked me into getting back in the workforce, and I went to work for Ed Krebs when he was elected state representative, and I worked for him and for the state for about 10 years. And I retired, I guess you would say, at the end of '99, as we were going to do some traveling and things, which didn't quite work out. But anyway, since then I've been still involved with church and the community. I'm very involved with Cornwall Manor, where I now live. And I was on the board out there for a number of years, and I still am on a committee and volunteer a lot out there. Done a lot of volunteer work over the years, and really enjoy that. It's being part of the community, and I've met some wonderful people that way as well.
Wow. And were you ever on the board of Lebanon Valley College?
No, I was not.
Tell me, what was your biggest challenge while you were working for Ed Krebs?
Oh my. I think basically, I don't know if I guess it was a challenge, but also the goal was to do as much and make people in the community involved in government and understand what government is, to try to help people as much as we possibly could through some of the snags and red tape that evolve when you're in working with state or local governments at all. Trying to keep people informed of what was going on and have them understand how government works and why some things you can't do for them and some things you can, but how that whole system and process goes. It's very frustrating for people by the time they call a state office because they're having problems. And so it was trying to resolve those kinds of things. And most of the time we were pretty successful, I think.
I think you were very successful. I know a lot of people, again, respected you for everything you did. They knew you gave your heart and soul into trying to solve problems for them. Mm-hmm. I think that I met you first in the League of Women Voters, probably.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so that was quite a few years ago.
Yes.
And so, as you think about your tenure at Cornwall Manor on the board, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about Cornwall Manor and your role there, and how do you think you made a difference there?
I started out with Cornwall Manor because I was on the board of the Oakview Home when it was closing. And I'd been on for a number of years, and then when we were pretty much forced to close just because of regulations and
they called it the
funding
widow's
and so
home.
forth. Right, when it was the widow's home changed to the Oakview Home, and we had residents who needed to be transferred to another facility, and we had a small amount of trust fund that we were using to operate Oakview. And Cornwall Manor very kindly offered to take any of our residents who wished to go out there as a transfer. And in those days, that was a very difficult thing to do because of the financing and whatever, and we still had some life contracts. So when we made the transfer, the trust fund stayed in Oakview's name but went out to Cornwall Manor for the benefit of those residents. And since the money belonged to Oakview, they asked for somebody from the Oakview board to be on the Foundation Trust Committee. So that's how I wound up there to begin with, as a representative from Oakview. That was 20 years ago, and I'm still involved. I'm volunteering, and I still am on the Foundation Trust Committee. I did spend 9 years on the board, and I'm currently chairing the capital campaign to raise $5 million for our new health center, which hopefully we will be starting with shovel in the ground this summer. Looking forward to that tremendously. It's a big need. Our old building is from the 60s, and we are looking to, while we have excellent care, we're trying to improve the facilities and so forth. And then in the meantime, I got acquainted with the staff and many of the workers out there who are just wonderful people, and lots of the residents. So it ultimately motivated me to decide to move out there. And I've been there for about 8 months and loving every minute of it.
Wonderful. And tell me about how many people are at Cornwall Manor?
There are in the neighborhood of 500 residents at this point, from all over the world, all over the place. It's amazing when I look at the people that are there and the backgrounds and histories that they have in so many interesting and exciting ways. And we have apartments, cottages, a health center, assisted living, and then the Woods, which is the new section where I live, is all independent housing. And but all part of the main structure of Cornwall Manor. It's a continuing care retirement community, and just a wonderful place to live.
Is it still, or was it ever associated with a church?
It started out as with the Methodist Church. Actually, Bishop Reverend Levi Zur bought it for a retirement home for Methodist ministers. And as with most church-operated homes in a number of years ago, they just could not keep up financially with it. So Cornwall Manor incorporated as an independent nonprofit. It's run by a board of trustees. They still maintain a relationship with the Methodist home and the Christian principles of that home and or how that it's run. But we've had people of all religions, faiths, creeds, and nationalities there. So it's very wide open, and it is run by the board of trustees, and is their total responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big job. 500 people. I didn't know how I see it growing before my eyes.
Yes.
I go out and go to different functions. Sometimes you have little fairs. I know I was out and made a scarecrow in the fall, and that was so much fun. There were Girl Scouts there, and they helped me with it, and it was a really nice day. And there's different functions that they open up to the community and invite you in.
Very, very much involved in the community. A lot of our staff people are on the boards of United Way or school boards or community, their particular location. They volunteer in their own communities where they live, and that's, I think, the atmosphere that we live with, because they feel the responsibility for Cornwall Manor residents, but they also feel it through their communities as well. And we're very involved in many community things we try to open up, where we have a lot of youth groups that come out to spend time, church groups and youth groups that come out to spend times with senior citizens and adopt a grandparent and that sort of thing. So it's kind of neat. Not all of our residents have family in the area, and so it's kind of nice for them when they get an adopted family as well.
That's neat.
I can't even remember what the name of the committee was. Bob Hoffman was on it because I found a picture recently when I was moving and doing things. And it was like an economic development committee. So it's not really called that, but it was different things for working with Don as the mayor for things in the community. And it was a really good eye-opener for me. And I was on the board of Quest for a number of years, and I really had very little connection with the workshop when it was the Lebanon County Workshop. In fact, I was on the board when we changed the name from the workshop to Quest, and that was a remarkably wonderful experience. Just meeting the people who worked there and the staff people and how committed they were to everything. And then right before I moved, I was on the zoning board in Lebanon City. And that, again, was another eye-opener. I didn't really know. I think Jim was on years ago. And I knew a little bit about it, but it was really interesting to sit there and listen to the different kinds of cases that came up and what motivated people to do certain things, to oppose or agree with a possible zoning change and so forth. So there are a lot of things that you do in life. You don't mark it in stars at the top, but they really do, I think, form the person that you keep becoming all along. And I like to think I keep becoming somebody new all the time so that you don't get too stale and stuck in your ways, I guess.
Well, listening to you, I often hear people say how the public in general seeks out the fountain of youth. And it occurred to me that we should be really seeking out the fountain of wisdom from people like you, who have been through so much in life and who have had positive experiences and influenced other people in positive ways.
I like to think that you've left a good mark behind you or a good footstep behind you, no matter what you do. But I also think that the feeling that you get from doing things that you feel are worthwhile just help to make a more productive life, a more fulfilling life, and it makes you feel like you want to keep going. It's not like, oh, I'm too old and decrepit to do anything more, I'm going to hide away. And I think the important thing to stay healthy and active is just to keep doing things that are really important to me, but also important to the general health and wealth and welfare of everybody. So it's kind of a win-win situation that way. If you can do things that are good for yourself, that spreads out to the rest of the community, I think.
And is that your philosophy of life, or did you have something else that you kind of followed?
No, I kind of grew up in a Catholic school and with parents who believed in giving back all the time and doing good things for people and taking responsibility for whatever you did in life. You were in charge of your own life and you were responsible if it went good or bad and so forth. I think that's an important factor, and I think today it's an even more important factor for people to take responsibility for what they do, good or bad, and hopefully that leads them in the right direction, I guess.
All right, then let me just close with this. If you had to give words of wisdom to the next generation, male or female, but especially female because we are doing a Women's Hall of Fame, what kind of words of wisdom would you leave with them?
I think I would say don't be afraid to take a chance and don't be afraid to fail. People rather many times would not try because they might fail. I think you need to try as much as you can that you feel you're capable of doing, and if you fail, you just scratch it off and start all over again. But it's important to keep trying.
I love those. You spoke to me today. Thank you. Well, is there anything else you would like to say before we close?
No, just that I feel very honored to have been chosen to be in this Hall of Fame, and I think that women are just doing a remarkable job in this community as well as the rest of the world. But in Lebanon County, we're very fortunate to have the people we do fighting for us and working for us and helping us move ahead.
Well, the Women's Hall of Fame is very honored to have you amongst our honorees this year, Diana, and we wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.